You are looking at Scotland. You see rugged mountains, deep lochs, and a coastline battered by the Atlantic. It feels ancient, isolated, and small. But what you are really looking at is the remnant of a geological war that spanned 100 million years. Look closer at the Highlands. These aren't just hills. These are the scars of a supercontinent collision. A mountain range once the size of the Himalayas, formed when two ancient continents, Laurentia and Baltica, slammed together. The very ground beneath your feet was once split by a massive ocean called Iapetus. This brutal world-shaping geography is why Scotland is unlike anywhere else. It's why it has 790 islands, why its weather is a constant battle, and why its history is defined by isolation. We're going beyond the kilts and castles to uncover the 15 geographical facts that explain the real, impossible country of Scotland. The first fact that makes Scotland impossible is that its basement rocks are nearly 3 billion years old. The Lowesian gneiss exposed in the Northwest Highlands represents some of Earth's oldest surfaces still visible today. You can walk on rocks that existed when the planet had no oxygen, no complex life, just primordial chemistry working in darkness. But here's where Scotland breaks geological rules. The Moyne Thrust presents a paradox that puzzled Victorian geologists for decades. Older rocks sit on top of younger ones. This defies everything we know about how Earth works, until you understand the crushing forces that built this landscape. During the Caledonian collision, entire mountain ranges were shoved on top of each other like crumpled paper. The third fact reveals Scotland's active geology. The Great Glen fault cuts a perfectly straight line across the entire country for 100 miles. This is not just ancient history, it is still moving. Seismic monitoring shows the fault remains active, a reminder that the forces that built Scotland never fully stopped. Yet Scotland contains two completely different geological worlds separated by a single line. The Highland Boundary Fault divides the country between the ancient, twisted rocks of the north and the younger sediments of the south. Cross this invisible boundary, and you are literally stepping between different chapters of Earth's history. The fifth impossible fact lies in Scotland's Torridonian Sandstone Mountains. These red peaks stand as witnesses to erosion cycles that lasted over 1 billion years. They watched entire mountain ranges rise and fall, continents drift apart and collide again. The Torridonian peaks are survivors, geological monuments to deep time that most landscapes cannot preserve. But these ancient foundations were just the beginning. The collision that created the Caledonian Mountains generated forces comparable to the Himalayas today. Imagine Scotland's gentle hills as towering peaks reaching toward the sky, rivers of ice carving through granite, and volcanic activity reshaping the landscape. The metamorphic rocks tell the story of this violence. Schists and gneisses in the Grampian Highlands were once sediments on ancient ocean floors, compressed and heated until they recrystallized into entirely new minerals. The pressure was so intense, it created garnets you can still find embedded in highland rocks today. Granite intrusions mark where molten rock forced its way through the crust during this mountain-building episode. The Cairngorms, Ben Nevis, and dozens of other peaks are the cooled remains of magma chambers that fed volcanoes long since eroded away. These granite is cooled slowly underground, creating the coarse crystals that make Highland stone so distinctive. The Great Glen fault itself tells a story of lateral movement spanning hundreds of millions of years. The Northern Highlands slid sideways along this fault, displacing rocks by distances measured in hundreds of kilometers. Loch Ness, Loch Lochy, and Loch Linhi all follow this ancient fracture line. These ancient bones support something equally dramatic above ground. The geological violence that created Scotland's foundation set the stage for everything that followed: the islands, the climate battles, and the human story of adaptation to impossible geography. The geography of extremes. The sixth fact that makes Scotland impossible. It has 790 islands scattered across some of the most violent waters on Earth. Most countries are lucky to have a handful of significant islands. Scotland has more islands than some nations have cities, each one a testament to the relentless power of ice and ocean working together to fragment the landscape. These are not gentle tropical atolls. These are fortress islands hammered by Atlantic storms, carved from granite and gneiss, standing as Europe's western rampart against oceanic fury. Outer Hebrides take the full brunt of weather systems that have traveled 3,000 miles across open ocean, with waves that can reach heights of 30 meters during winter storms. The seventh fact reveals Scotland's volcanic legacy, frozen in time. The Isle of Skye's Cuillin peaks aren't just mountains, they are the exposed heart of an ancient volcano. When the North Atlantic began tearing apart 60 million years ago, massive magma intrusions created these jagged peaks. The Cuillin Ridge contains some of the most technically challenging climbing in Britain. The landscape is so alien, it has been used as a stand-in for other worlds in science fiction films. But Skye's drama extends beyond the Cuillin. The Old Man of Storr, Kilt Rock, and the Quiraing all represent different aspects of volcanic violence. Basalt lava flows, landslides triggered by Ice Age glaciation, and ongoing erosion have created a landscape that seems to defy gravity itself. The eighth geographical impossibility stands at Ben Nevis, Britain's highest peak, at 1,345 meters. This isn't just Scotland's tallest mountain, it is a granite intrusion that reveals the underground architecture of the Caledonian Collision. 400 million years ago, molten rock forced its way through the crust and cooled slowly underground. Subsequent erosion stripped away the overlying rocks, exposing this ancient magma chamber as a mountain. Ben Nevis creates its own weather system. The peak can experience Arctic conditions, while the base enjoys mild temperatures. Snow can fall on the summit in July, while tourists sunbathe at sea level, just 15 miles away. The mountain's bulk forces Atlantic air masses upward, creating precipitation totals that exceed 3 meters annually on the higher slopes. The ninth fact takes us to Orkney, where 5,000-year-old Neolithic sites prove human adaptation to Scotland's harsh island geography. Skara Brae, the Ring of Brodgar, and Maeshowe demonstrate that people have been wrestling with Scotland's extremes for millennia. These sites are not just ancient, they are evidence that Scotland's geography has been shaping human civilization since before the pyramids were built. Orkney's Neolithic builders understood something crucial about Scottish geography. The islands provide both isolation and connection. The same waters that separated Orkney from mainland Scotland also linked it to Scandinavia, Ireland, and the broader Atlantic world. The archaeological evidence shows trade networks spanning thousands of miles, all centered on these windswept islands. The 10th fact reveals the Outer Hebrides as Europe's ultimate geographic frontier. Lewis, Harris, and the Uists form a chain of islands 130 miles long, facing the open Atlantic with nothing between them and North America, except 3,000 miles of ocean. The butt of Lewis Lighthouse marks the northwesternmost point of Scotland, where cliffs 100 meters high face down Atlantic storms that have been building power across an entire ocean basin. Yet this exposure creates unexpected advantages. The Gulf Stream's warmth keeps these islands free of ice, even at latitudes that would be frozen tundra in Canada. Palm trees grow in Hebridean gardens at the same latitude as Labrador, where polar bears hunt on sea ice. The climate contradiction defines Scotland, harsh enough to forge resilient cultures, mild enough to sustain complex societies. Climate warfare and geographic consequences. The 11th fact explains Scotland's perpetual weather battle. The Gulf Stream carries tropical warmth northward, while Arctic air masses push south, and Scotland sits exactly where these opposing forces collide. The result is weather warfare, a constant conflict between warm, moist Atlantic air and cold, dry continental systems. This collision creates Scotland's famous unpredictability. You can experience 4 seasons in a single day because you are witnessing real-time atmospheric combat. The mountains force these air masses upward, wringing moisture from Atlantic storms and creating precipitation patterns that can vary dramatically across just a few miles. The 12th geographical fact lies underneath your feet, in Scotland's soils. Glacial grinding during the Ice Ages created unique soil conditions that produce world-class whiskey terroir. The combination of granite bedrock, peat formation, and specific mineral content creates water chemistry that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Scottish whiskey is not just about tradition. It is about geology, creating flavors that exist nowhere else on Earth. Peat formation is the 13th impossible fact. Scotland's climate and geology interact to create vast peat bogs that store massive amounts of carbon. These bogs form where poor drainage and cool temperatures prevent organic matter from fully decomposing. The result is landscapes that act as carbon sinks, storing thousands of years of accumulated plant material in waterlogged soils. The 14th fact is Scotland's distinctive sea lochs. These are not river valleys. They are fjords carved by ice sheets and then filled by the sea. Glaciers that flowed from the Highlands carved deep valleys, which now channel Atlantic power dozens of miles inland. Loch Katrine, Loch Lomond, and dozens of other sea lochs bring oceanic influence far into Scotland's interior. The 15th and final fact is still happening today. Isostatic rebound continues lifting Scotland 1 to 2 millimeters each year as the crust recovers from the weight of ice sheets removed 10,000 years ago. Scotland is literally still rising from the last ice age, a process that will continue for thousands more years. The land remembers the weight of ice and responds with geological patience. Scotland's geography represents geological time compressed into visible landscape. Every glen, loch, and peak tells the story of forces that dwarf human experience, yet shape every aspect of Scottish identity. Subscribe for more geographical revelations that explain how nations are forged by the earth itself.